Okay, it is exactly 12 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Liz, could you please do roll call?
Kathy McCoy,
Present.
Gary Hilgendorf,
Present.
Mark Helwig. He's online. Marshall Sawicki.
Yep.
Elaine Smith,
Here.
Katie Bellinger,
Here.
Ryan Reed. Katie Schumann,
Here.
Noreen Gouget. Andy Alvarado. Jeff Johnson.
Here.
So we do have a quorum, correct?
Yes. Doug Rotek
Yes.
and John, yeah.
No.
I did not hear saying
Mr. Yeah, Lieutenant Johnson.
We'll chat after this.
Easier to us.
Yes, you do.
You forgot.
I called him, I think there was some conversation.
Oh, here.
Yeah, and I found him.
Thank you.
Okay, if you would join me in
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
compliance with open meeting law.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. As far as the meeting agenda, everybody has it in front of them. Is there anything that we want to change in terms of ordering or any additions or anything? We'll move on. Public comments. Is there anybody either here or online that would like to address the committee? And we'll move on to the minutes from the previous meeting. I think everybody has them in their packet and hopefully has had a chance to look at them. And if there's no changes or corrections, I'd entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Like motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
And then criminal justice coordinator, Becky, you had something for us or something?
I have all kinds of stuff.
Okay,
for you.
great.
Okay, so bear with me, and I have a lot of different numbers because we broke them down a little bit more this month. So our pretrial numbers are we're at 113 right now. So we have some people who are on court reminders only, and that's 23. We have our current diversion cases right now are at 10. We have diversion referrals that are pending. There's 4 of those. We have 7 diversion cases that have been completed successfully. We have 7 that have been determined as eligible diversion cases, but they're in pending status because they have to be approved. And we have 1 diversion pending that's in failed status, but it hasn't gone to court yet, so it's not technically a failed. We have 3 that have been removed from the wait list as pending. We have 24 intakes for new bonds, and we have 42 that were removed from the wait list due to non-compliance. Does anybody have any questions about those numbers?
Your 42, does that include the 34 from last time? Are these new 42?
No, those include those 34, so it's 8 additional.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on the numbers? Anything else that we have to report?
Well, we received the pre-application guidelines for 2023 TAD grant, which we have gone over the initial part, and Jamie, you can jump in at any time, or I can go through it if you want, but we were looking for some guidance from the CJCC on how you would like us to proceed with that. There is, you know, a category there, they broke them down into different categories. And, you know, because we received a pre-planning grant for last year, we fit into a category better than the other ones. But, you know, do you want us to send this out to the CJCC so everybody can look at what the categories are? Or how do you want us to proceed with that?
How many categories are there?
There are 5.
And based on, you guys have most knowledge about this, which ones do you think, can you apply for more than one?
No, you can't apply for multiple
Okay,
categories.
so which one do you feel of those 5?
Because we received the pre-planning grant, there's a category 3 that we seem to fall into best. And that would require us to be up and running by January of 2023 with our treatment court in place, which I would suggest that we get a treatment court planning committee in place.
And how much funding are we talking about?
Well, that would be part of our TAD grant. So we would be running on our current funding right now. So we wouldn't need additional funding right now.
I guess what are the other categories then?
So the other categories are, category 2 says, you know, it's rising costs, which, I mean, there are rising costs everywhere, but that, I would say that's the main part of category 2. Category 1 is baseline funding, but, you know, and it's, I think it would probably be better for me to send this out if people wanted to look at it and if they have suggestions on how they would like us to proceed.
When is it due?
It's due. You remember when it's due, Jamie?
Yeah, I don't. I think at this point in time, we can maybe write a little summary for each one that we believe would apply for Sawyer and which one might be the best option and what we get out of that. A lot of it is going to be based on the original grant that was submitted and the funding that was requested at that time.
Well, and there's a webinar next Tuesday specific to the TAD funding and the pre-planning, which I will be going to.
Can anybody attend that webinar?
I believe so. We can forward it.
If you could, that would be great. I just am concerned that I want to, if you send out the information, if it comes back to the committee next month, does that give you guys enough time to make sure that you get everything completed before the deadline?
The pre-application is due August 19th. Then the final application isn't due, there's no date yet for
Okay.
it's in the fall.
Okay.
So what we had talked about this morning, Jamie and Nikki and I met this morning, and you know, the application was submitted last year, and the main part of the application is complete. We just have to add our new numbers into it. So Nikki and our team did the bulk of the application last year. So, I mean, they did all of the groundwork. It's adding our new numbers into it.
Yeah, I reached out to them when we got the emails about the webinar and the application materials essentially came out, asked that they take the lead on putting together the county application again for us.
It's
So-
basically keeping our data up to date, which we've been doing.
So if it was sent out to everybody, we could discuss it at next month's meeting and give you direction at that point. Would that work?
Sure.
I just don't want to cut you guys short on time. So it sounds like.
Yeah, if we could get, just a commitment of some sort, even a loose one from this body regarding allowing us to move ahead with getting documentation and whatnot prepared for your review.
I think the 5 alternatives, there's really only 3. 3 out of the 5 are even possibilities for us, 'cause I think 4 was enhancement and expansion of existing programs. And we really don't have a drug court up and running, so we really can't expand or enhance. The other one was 1-year evaluation of existing programs.
We don't have any existing
Nothing
program.
really to evaluate, so. Could you go back to what you said, you didn't know that? Number 3 is new treatment court diversion program, so we getting our drug court up and running. Would that be, did you say we'd have to have it up and running by the first of the year?
Well, it says that you have to have a plan in place by January of 2023.
So can we have a plan put together by 20?
That's why I said we need to have a planning committee.
I'm thinking of the judge, he's not here. He said at one of our prior meetings that there will be no, his words, I think.
Until we get a judge.
Until we have a second judge up and running, there will be no drug court up. Because there's not judicial capacity to do that. But we could have a plan in place. 'Cause that would mean there's no drug court until this time. Actually, August, September next year. We won't have a second judge up and running until then. But we could we have a plan in place?
Why can't we have a second judge up and running?
What's that?
Because I want to know why we can't have a second judge. I mean, we're bringing judges in, I know. We look at this is impossible. But we can't have a second judge, or we can't get this set up. I know,
We don't
you
have
can't
it.
speak for the.
Have to have a second judge until it's elected, obviously, what, 20, it's April.
So we wouldn't even be able to get up and running probably before 2024. I mean, so
Well, I think
do we need a second judge, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, I think what the judge was saying is that he doesn't have the time without having a second judge on board to get to drug court.
And it takes a lot of time. I
He
mean,
is,
even with our
he is
healing
going to
development
go
support.
to the, he's not going now?
He was, he backed up.
Okay.
Even our healing development court takes a lot of time. So a drug court is going to take a lot of time.
Becky, I have a question on that. So if we were to come up with a drug court plan to have in place, does that have to be solidified or can it be fluid? If we come up with a plan and this is the way we're going and then the new judge comes on board and is like, well, how about we tweak it to this? Are we still in compliance with that?
We would, the implementation would follow the structure that's been established by the TAD grant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what we submit has to be implemented.
Okay, but that could change if, say, we get a month in and we're like, hey, wait a minute, we should have done this. Now that we see it actually up and running for 2024, would we be able to modify that?
You could make existing tweaks, but major policy decisions, there's evidence-based standards that we have to follow. And those those have to be in place by the time you start.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so anybody else thoughts on this? I guess if you want to send the information out.
Could you send the
I-
information to me and I send it out so we avoid walking court?
That would be perfect. And also the link to the webinar, so we can sit in on that and help.
So we'll both have to look.
Okay. That would help us at least maybe understand the other options and it would be viable. And as far as the judge, he would still have to be a pretty big part of how this is going to be structured, right? I mean, he's got to have some input into this and be willing to work with it even if he isn't gonna be the judge, because I mean, obviously, there's gonna have to be planning done for, he could be the judge or the second judge could be the judge, either one, right? But it doesn't sound like we're getting to that. We can make huge changes once we say we're gonna implement this.
Correct.
We can't come in and say, oh, no, we're not gonna do this, now we're gonna do that.
I think, yeah, I think he's got a fairly substantial piece of the operation of the drug court, because in order for people to get to drug court, doesn't they have to do the version to get them there?
So any other thoughts, anybody? I guess if you could send that out, we'll put it on next month's agenda. Everybody can take a
Andy
look.
said he just sent it to Lynn, so.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Mark on the line here. Something that we were discussing last month, and the judge was, I know he was very hesitant about starting anything with the drug court, but I believe that we do have to start the plan, whether he's on board or not. I know he's got to be involved in it, but at the same time, planning has to start. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I think we probably all feel, right, we're ready to move on, right? So it's just a question of how we can do it. So anybody else have any other questions about how things are going, or we have anything new in the jail? I mean, you were doing the reading program, I know, you've been gone for a month, so.
No, that's the newest. Becky and I met with Heidi last week. Yeah, last week, and there's discussion of, there's a program that's similar, but it's designed specifically for men. So that's something we're looking into. But yeah, we're trying to find ways. We've had very low participation for the Literacy Link program. A lot of sign up for the workshop. They show up for the initial workshop that they have to take, but then when we go and get them, no, I don't want to, no, I don't want to. And all three of us shared the same opinion, which is it's too early in the morning for them. So next month, we're going to shoot for the afternoon. Hopefully, everybody's awake by then. And
That's good.
So-
I mean, recognizing and trying to tweak it to make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we can offer all the programs that we can. It's, we can't force anybody to participate. So,
We still housing how many people out of county?
about 20.
That's due to staff storage.
Staffing, just inmate numbers in general, and construction.
Chairwoman Baker. Becky, what's the difference between a diversion referral pending and 7 people that are waiting for approval? What's the difference between those two? Or does that include the 4 pending?
So in the past, we had gotten a list from the district attorney's office of people that were pre-approved. And now we've done risk assessments and we have people that we believe would be good fits for diversion, but we haven't gotten approvals from the district attorney's office yet on those, whether they would be approved or not. So we have to get those approvals.
How long do you normally wait for an approval?
Well, it depends because sometimes we work with them on pre-trial. We don't want to, sometimes we work with people for a while before we submit that referral because we don't want to, they might come back as medium or high risk. And then we work with them and realize that after we implement services that they might be a better risk or they might be a better fit for diversion than initially thought, or vice versa. They might come back as low risk and after working with them, they might be a little bit higher risk. So we work with them on pre-trial for a little bit before submitting that referral. So we hold those referrals before submitting them. So it's all kind of done on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
So some of them might be a month, Some of them might be 2 months, so I don't have an exact answer.
Yeah.
It's all up to the case manager, depending on that individual basis.
It must be working though, because you only had one that failed, right?
Pretty
So
well
you're
right
making
now,
a good judgment, yeah.
knock on wood.
Thank you.
And the fail right now, I mean, it hasn't even gone to court yet, so that one is actually working with Healing the Wellness Court. So we'll see what happens.
Thanks.
So has this been of any benefit to your office, Chris, or has it been more work for you, basically? Everything's more work for you. I guess, obviously, things are working. I mean, you're doing, sounds like a good job of screening and holding things and really watching. And I assume, are you feeling more comfortable with what you're getting for diversions that they want?
I didn't hear your question.
I just
exactly,
wondered if
Debbie.
he was feeling more comfortable, because originally I know there was a lack of comfort kind of between, you know, he's got an obligation to not let anybody go who's gonna be a problem, and it's gonna come back, you know, to haunt him. I totally understand that. And you guys obviously have tried to get people into diversion, and so it appears that things are starting to work. I mean, that would be my take on it, I guess. I mean, I assume, I was just asking Chris if he felt that he was, you know, it was starting to work for him a little better.
If you have folks that are successful in staying clean, that's working for all of us. So,
Right.
yeah. You know, and you have these stories, people's lives that are being changed by being sober. So,
So that's good.
yes, you have just wanted, I would say it was making me more comfortable.
That's good. That's what, because I mean, you have to have a level of comfort. I mean, that's your job, obviously, right?
Right.
So that's,
And folks are still using it to commit crimes. So that's
well,
a
that's,
problem.
yeah, that's not gonna. So, okay, well, thank you. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. We were gonna have, Pathways Home Program, Matthew, is he with us?
You was at the jail earlier.
Where it is.
That was several hours ago, but
You're gonna keep him captive at the jail, John?
no, he was actually walking out of the jail the last time I saw him, but
Well, let's go on and hopefully he will show up, because that was something I think everybody was very interested in. The TAG grant and benchmark updates, I think you've pretty much gone through that, right, Debbie?
I did, sorry, I skipped ahead.
That's okay, not a problem. We need to see services update. He's been working really hard, I know, I'm trying to get this property in luck.
Oh, we went down last week. Lorraine went down and then
Okay.
Mark Stoner
Okay.
from Magnolia Ranch. And you know that Lorraine has said they're gonna try to get the tribal governing board to all go
Yeah.
down, take a look at
Yep.
it.
She gave us the invite.
It is quite the place.
Yeah.
It'd be ideal, but obviously 2.9 million and then staffing it, that's a lot of work, a lot of work.
So were you able to contact any other counties to see if they might be interested in something like this?
My contact with other counties, we have a administrators group where I brought the information forward and put it out there to them. And specifically, we were talking about how people are using their opioid funds. And for the most part, counties in this area have existing programs or internal ways they're going to use their funds. Not to say that they wouldn't be able to utilize a facility like that, just, human service agencies or otherwise to send people there. But as far as the opioid funding goes, everybody's got plans.
So are they ahead of us in terms of like drug courts then, or different things? I mean, are we that much
That's right, I think-
behind everybody in terms of programming?
Yeah, most, I don't know how many, but majority of them have drug courts up and running.
Okay.
And it seems like that's where a lot of their opioid funding is either gonna go towards their law enforcement, supporting additional services for them, or to backfill their, some of them I think are already running out of TAD grant, because they've been drug court so long, they're either out of TAD grant funding, or they want more funds to go towards their drug court, so I think that's where they're putting their opioid funds.
So, other thoughts, and we had kicked around some other ideas too, in terms of using that money to, in the jail, for more programming in the jail, if we could get what we actually really would like to have, right? And so,
At the last work group, we were talking about other things too, and one of them was aftercare, because we lack aftercare services in our county, along with a lot of other things, but going back to that house that you looked at and there'd be nothing from stopping the tribe from talking to like St. Croix. It's right in their territory, you know, they might be willing to partner.
excellent. And that's kind of led us into why we wanted pathways here, because I think we did, even in the meeting before, we talked about the need for after treatment and how important it. I think you informed us about pathways, right? That there was, no, it was, I can't remember. Yes, yeah. But I think there were some Sawyer County people that would be referred to that program,
Yep.
right? And that's why we wanted to hopefully hear about it and how it was set up and structured and everything.
Is it an aftercare program? Is that what it
Yes.
is? Oh, it's an aftercare program.
Yes. So, and you're full, right? Household is full.
Yeah, the men's house is, and we were looking at a place that would have worked, but we're building a workshop right now out behind a 34 by 40 workshop, and our board didn't want to, because we had a great offer, I won't say but from who, but about another building which would have at least housed 8 guys. And but we were unable to, as a board, go forward with it. I was all for it.
Yeah, that's what you have boards for, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything I was gonna ask you? We were talking at one point about Oasis, and it got closed down from health, and maybe you can shed some light on that. And do we know what's going on with that? I know the Veteran Center moved over there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so right now, let's say roughly half the building is being remodeled. It's been in the process of remodeling for the ADRC is gonna move there. And Veteran Services is already there. The other portion of the building is leased by Northwest Connections. Is that- Passage, thank you. That lease runs through the end of this year. And that's where discussing whether that lease we'll be discussing whether that lease is going to continue, or if they want to continue leasing, and if we want to continue leasing with them.
Okay. So that building's pretty much taken now.
As of this moment, it is. If you want, I can just tell you that on the opioid settlement too, this is on for the finance committee meeting tomorrow. I'll be talking there about the securitization option. And so that's, we're getting $480,000 roughly is our portion of the settlement. We can get that over a period of, right now, currently at 18 years. It fluctuates between 26,185 a year up to, there'll be a few years where it's 47,000 and 49,000. But it's split because there's 2 different settlements, one with Janssen, which is Johnson & Johnson, and one which is all the other distributors, and they're all paying different amounts annually. So we could take it over those 18 years and get that $26,000 to $47,000 each year, or there's going to be an option for us to secure it. They call this securitization, where we would get the first payment this year of $27,303, and then we could take a lump sum of projected to be $271,000, probably around the end of this year, first of next year. And then thereafter, we would get a couple years of 20-ish thousand. Otherwise, it'd be roughly $10,000 a year for the next 18 years. So it's you take a lump sum and allocate it to some priorities, or do you take state revenue for the next 18 years? So that's the choice the county's going to have to make.
So did you do the math? Is it the same amount in the end that we get, or no?
No, it's less.
How much
because
less is it?
if we did buyout proposal, we would actually be getting closer to 400,000. It's the cost of selling. Essentially what's happening is there's somebody that's financing, buying the
Yeah,
proceeds from you, and that's the cost of getting it up front.
I suppose we don't have it on our agenda, so we can't make a recommendation to the finance committee.
Yeah, and it's not something that we need to, there's no,
So they're not gonna vote on it tomorrow, finance committee?
no, we don't have to lock ourselves into it this month. We don't have a date even yet when we need to commit by.
Okay, but I mean, they're not going to decide the finances are on their agenda for action tomorrow or not?
I'm not sure how it's listed. I don't intend to ask them to take action.
Okay. So can we have that on our agenda for next month so we can make a recommendation as to that? I guess I don't know what happened to Matthew.
No, he's the one that requested it.
Yeah, he did. And
Right,
I
and then we
sent, I
scheduled
sent,
it, I sent to Lynn right away,
Yep.
get him on the agenda.
yeah, and I sent him a message and he hasn't responded.
Okay, does anybody else, have anything else that they want on next month's agenda, or if we can, hopefully maybe we schedule Matthew for next month if possible?
Just part comment, something we see for the next month's agenda. So looking at the CJC, there's a couple things. One, on here, there's item 12 on the agenda regarding the policies and procedures manual. I asked them to put this on all the committee agendas because we're reviewing the county board policies, procedures, and the roles and responsibilities of the committees. So it really didn't need to be on this one. Short story, because this is not a standing committee of the county board. It's an existing committee, but you do have a bylaws of the CJCC, which we have, so that actually fulfills that. But one thing I noted in the bylaws and the discussions we've been having is that there's been, and that this might be for purposes that I don't know about or we get informed about, but there's very little involvement with our human services in the CJCC. And I think they're an important connection to have involvement, and we've been talking about opioid settlement and how to use the opioid funds. So as a starting point, I don't think she's the only person, the only department, but I asked Julia Lyons to sit in today, and maybe even make a presentation next month, because they've been looking at the opioid settlement dollars, not so much maybe the ones that we're gonna get as a county, but also the state is getting some, and how we can compete for some of those grant dollars. And I think they've been approaching it from kind of the community services standpoint of addressing the overall community health in this area. You want to give a snippet of what you've been trying to do?
Well, yeah, and actually Jeff Bjork is on and she's been kind of leading this. We're really, yeah, I better get to hear that. I know that it's hard to hear if I don't.
Just yell.
Just yell. I actually talk really loud anyways. Yeah, we've been looking, just trying to do kind of a gap analysis and where are we really finding those gaps in the community. Aftercare is definitely one of the biggest gaps, transitional care. And then also even looking at the different ages, even if they have not been into the court system and what kind of gaps we have there. So have started that work. Jess has been leading the team on that. And I don't know, do you have any additional things to add? We didn't put together a presentation for today, but Jess, do you have anything else to add? No.
Sorry, I didn't realize this right.
I'm fine.
No, I don't. No.
Yep,
So-
so we can put together what we found so far. We're going to continue to keep looking. We've been working really closely with these guys as we work through, and also trying to look at just the different treatment options. We've been working with Beziki, kind of looking at their pathways, and we'll be working with North Lakes, looking at their pathways as well.
So that's Julia for next month.
I got a question for Julie. How much money are you looking to get?
We don't get any money. There's grant monies that the state's gonna get. And so we want to be prepared. Because what happens a lot of times is grants get thrown out there and then you're like trying to figure out what you're gonna do, what can you do? So our goal is to say, this is what we need to do. And when those grants come available, we're ready to jump on them and go. And that's going to be the other thing that you're going to want to think about on the grant money or the money that's coming in on the settlement. Depends how you're going to spend that money. If you need to be able to fund a position over time, you might want to make sure you've got funding over time versus getting a lump sum. But if you're going to purchase things, then your lump sum would make more sense. So kind of processing through what you're going to do with that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I know we had talked about trying to
Yep,
get health
yep.
and
And
human
Jeff-
services
Jeff-
more involved.
Jeff and I were
with it,
texting, and
yes.
we'll at least have one of us, even if we're not on the committee here,
Well,
so
that's
that we can hear.
And maybe that's a bylaw change that we want to make, that we do have a representative from the Health and Human
This-
Service Department.
This
yes.
one seemed timely because we're talking about
Yes.
good money. But the bigger picture to me, and I think really when you get to having a drug court, is the youth justice or behavioral health, because from other drug courts in the region, I know a lot of times the drug court participants are also often clients of human services through the CCS program or something else. So I think we need to build a bridge that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, no, and this has been discussed in the past also, so now's a good time, you're absolutely right, to, as long as we've got willing people to.
Yeah, and Jess is actually the one that goes
Right.
in the jail most of the time.
Okay. That's good. So, let's put that on the agenda for next month also then, and I'll take a look at the bylaws and shoot you something that to incorporate additional member, you know, from Health and Human Services, and hopefully either one of you guys can draw straws. But I think that'd be nice to have that component so that you could keep us informed. Yeah. All right, and that's actually a good point. Does everybody have a copy of the bylaws?
I don't think I do.
You want to shoot those out again and then maybe take a look and so we, if anybody spots something else before next month's meeting that we think we need to revise or whatever, we could do it at that time. Future agenda items.
Well, I have a question. What is this committee's recommendation for the use of that opioid money?
I don't think.
I mean, if it's going to finance tomorrow, they're gonna kind of want to know wasn't it tagged to this committee, Andy?
Yeah.
For some ideas? Is
That's
there
why
any
I was
ideas?
asking what they were gonna do at finance tomorrow, right? I think there's been multiple ideas. One was obviously a residential treatment center. That was our first idea. But it doesn't sound like from what we're hearing with the other counties that that's gonna happen. We talked about additional funding for mental health on a long-term basis in the jail. You know, even creating a position that we could fund over the next 10, 15, whatever years. Then we also did talk about aftercare. I mean, those were kind of the three things that the subcommittee had focused on or talked about. And I think, I hate to say it, but I don't want to rule out a residential treatment center, but it doesn't sound like we're gonna get multi-county cooperation. They all have got their stuff up and running. But maybe the tribes would be willing to, you know, work at something. And then, so that kind of gets us back to the other two focuses we talked about was trying to provide for some full-time mental health counseling in the jail, or also looking at some type of aftercare program, which went back to where did we have any space anywhere, what, you know, with buildings in existence, but that's kind of changed too. So that's where that's, I think we're at with things.
They always say that for aftercare, you know, when you go to those addiction things, is that it's so critical for success for the person who has gone to treatment already and now back in their home territory or near their home territory to have those type of intensive services to help them.
Well, I think just the House of Hope thing has proven that having a mentor and then having,
Mentors
and
are
not to, and
huge.
to follow them after they're done. It's not just like, oh, you're done, now you're on your own.
Right.
To have somebody who's continuing to be there to, you know,
And this community, the business community has been very supportive of giving the guys work.
everybody needs employees.
Yeah.
It's- But yeah, so I think that's kind of where we were at with things at this point, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
And I don't know, does anybody else on the committee see us moving in any other direction with that opioid money at this point?
I think the only other thing we talked about at the last work group was Judge Smith had brought up aftercare, you know, or after services, so.
Emergency.
Who's going to the finance committee? Anybody from here?
I am.
You are. So you can see.
You could-
You, Marshall, you were,
It's on the agenda.
and Andy will be there.
Yeah, I put it on the agenda mostly not to talk about how to spend it specifically, but are we interested in to present to them the securitization option that the county
And
association.
hopefully you can recommend against that.
I don't have a recommendation as of today.
Okay.
I mean, there's the other factor that I did mention is that if any of these companies that are part of the settlement, settle for some big dollar amounts, go bankrupt, then the money disappears too. So that's one of the reasons some counties are considering this is that get the money while you can before, nobody really thinks Johnson & Johnson's gonna go broke. But some of the other companies that are part of the distributor network could end up becoming insolvent.
$480,000.
Yeah. And Andy, there's restrictions on the use of this money, right?
Yeah, there's part of the settlement is a whole appendix on uses of the funds. If anybody wants that, I can email that out as well. Julia's looked at it, it's thick. I mean, you read through it and you're like, well, there's probably anything you can come up with in this realm will fit into some part of that definition. Because it covers everything from prevention to treatment. Like I said, but we could buy cases of Narcan for the sheriff's department with it. That's one of the eligible uses.
We're currently getting it for free, so.
Okay.
So anything else? Anybody have any correspondence or reports? Anybody go to any agreement conferences?
It's coming up in July, what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
But hopefully we get lots of information. And as far as our next meeting date, do you guys want to stick with the second Tuesday or? Wednesday, I'm sorry. The August 10th.
It works for me.
Does it work for? I can work for you.
Yes, the second you said?
10th. August 10th. Second Wednesday.
Yes.
Does it work for you?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and schedule it for that.
And just so everybody, this is Peg Buckman. She is our new pretrial specialist. She just started last week.
Welcome.
We're very happy to have her. She jumped in feet first. She's already doing risk assessments on her own.
Thanks. Good, we're happy to have you. Thank you. All right, this-
Kathy, are you able to come to county board and give the board a full review of what this committee's doing?
Well, actually, that brings me to another point. I would really like to resign as chairperson of this committee. I would like to remain on the committee. I have got a lot of issues going on, personal issues, with my parents right now. I just started avoiding in the emergency room again, and then, I really feel like I am not doing the position justice, to be honest with you, because I just do not have the time to go to the county board or go to these additional things. So, my heart is in it, but at this point, it could be 3 months, 6 months. I don't know how things are going to shake out, with it. So I don't know if anybody else would be interested in becoming. I could resign officially as of the end of this meeting, and we could have it on the agenda for our next meeting to elect a new chairperson. What did they choke up in? I mean, I just feel bad because I really do feel like I'm not putting in the time that I need to put in, that somebody should be putting in. And maybe in a month it'll be fine, but maybe it will not be fine,
For committee purposes, Andy, if she were to step down for a month or two, and as vice chair, I chaired the meetings, and then she gives us an official answer at that point. Because Kathy, I mean, obviously your heart is in it.
Yeah.
You do a good job.
Yeah.
You do a phenomenal job, Kathy.
Well, there's so many things I'd like to be able to go to the meeting, help and users. I'd like to go to county, and it is not possible with my schedule at this point. So, that's what I feel bad about.
Well,
I'm not necessarily chairing the meetings because,
We understand Andy and I can right? You can report
You
on
can report. I think
CJCC.
you're both well versed in what's going on.
Yeah.
so. Okay.
I was just inviting you.
Okay, well then I'll just stay for a little bit, see how it goes.
Good.
Okay. Very good. Thank you guys for putting up with me. All right, I guess then we will be adjourned. Everybody.